Hey, welcome back to the E-Drum Workshop. I'm Luke and I hope you're having a great day. Roland have just released a brand new VAD line, the VAD706, which is powered by a sort of new module in the TD-50X, an upgraded TD-50 with loads of new sounds and some improved functionality. There are also two new TD-50 V-Drums kits, the TD-50K2 and the TD-50KV2. But the news that most people will be excited about is the fact that the digital hi-hat is now a reality. The VH-14D comes as either part of one of these kits or will be available to purchase and use alongside the new module, or even the older TD-50 and the TD-27 modules. They put all of this news out in the dead of night over here in the UK. It was Wednesday, 1 AM, and I was in bed combing through the manual and watching the videos, making notes of any changes like a gigantic geek. So I'll talk you through what I found out in this video. I will do a future video comparing the upgraded 50X to the original TD-50, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss that video when it eventually comes out. So let's talk about the new kits first, then the digital hi-hats, and then the new TD-50X module. I won't spend too much time on the V-Drums kits. These are replacing the older TD-50K and TD-50KV lines. They haven't brought out a replacement for the KVX line. It looks like they've sort of bumped up what the K and the KV kits offer, and then they're using the VAD line as the sort of top tier. Both the K2 and the KV2 benefit from the newer thin range of cymbals, and they both had the digital hi-hat included, which is great to see because previously the K model had a VH11 rather than the VH13. Then there's the digital snare and ride like before, and they both run on the new TD-50X module. The K2 model has three 10-inch PDX 100 toms, 14 and 16-inch thin cymbals, and a KD140 kick drum pad. The KV2 has two 10-inch PD108BC rack toms, and two PD128BC floor toms, two 16-inch crashes, and the 18-inch KD180BC kick drum. It's great to see a 4-tom setup back on a flagship kit because previously there was only a 1-up 2-down configuration, and I think that the KV2 looks pretty great as far as the V-Drums pad kits go. They're a distinct line compared to the new VAD kits. The prices for these are estimated to be around $5399 or euros for the K2 and $7499 or euros for the KV2. In the UK, they're listed up for £4,800 and £6,700 respectively. So these kits are expensive, which I guess we've come to expect from Roland flagship kits. It'll be entirely up to you whether you think that the asking price is worth it. Next, we're on to the big gun, the VAD706. The first thing of note that surprised me is that there is a range of 4 colours available: gloss ebony, gloss natural, gloss cherry, and pearl white. This is a great step up from the all black VAD5 series, and more colour options hasn't really been much of a thing from Roland before, other than some shell wraps in the past, so it's really nice to see these. You've got a 22-inch kick drum, the KD222, which is a deeper kick drum at 18 inches than the previous KD220, which was 14 inches deep. It comes with 10 and 12-inch rack toms, the PDA100 and the PDA120, and a 14-inch floor tom, the PDA140. So they're the same pads as the VAD5 series from what I can tell, but they have different extensions on the model numbers for the new shells and the colours. And according to one of the overview videos, they also support positional sensing on these toms, which I didn't actually realise was possible on the new trigger designs. Then once again they come with a digital snare and ride, the PD140DS and the CY18DR, and the new VH-14D digital hi-hat. It also comes with two of the CY16RT cymbals as crashes. The VAD706 comes in at $8,000, which is a lot of money. And this translates to $7,000 in the UK, which is still a lot. It's not quite as big of a jump up from the V-Drums kit as I expected it to be, though this kit only comes with 3 toms rather than 4. Price aside, I think that the new VAD kit looks pretty sweet, and I know that a lot of people really like the 503 and the 506, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in these kits. They're only really going to be attainable to a small subset of electronic drummers though because of that price, though that has been the case for the flagship end of the spectrum for a long time. I imagine that we'll see these on quite a lot of stages in the future. From what I've read, it also seems that the new shells have maple outer plies for the new finishes, but there's no detail on exactly what the rest of the shell is made from. The tom sets on this kit also come with a new style of rim rubber. They're a sort of semi-translucent smoke grey look, which they intend to be a bit more subtle and blend in nicely with the new finishes. And I think that all the new finishes look really good. I personally really like white kits, so of course I'm fond of that one, but I think that the natural one is especially nice too, and I can't can't really pick out a favourite as they all look pretty classy, and they definitely give off a more premium vibe that's closer to custom kits offered by places like Drumtech, Jebeki, Diamond and Muzio, etc. The kit also comes with a new line of drum stands which all look pretty hefty and heavy duty, though you still don't get a hi-hat stand, snare stand, kick drum pedal or throne with the kits. You'll need to purchase these yourself. I think it would have been nice to at least see the snare stand and the hi-hat stand included considering the price. And of course, sticks and headphones will need to be purchased separately too. Right, let's get on to the digital hi-hat. This has been on people's minds ever since the TD-50 was first announced back in 2016 with 3 USB ports but only 2 digital pads. Finally, we can all tick the digital hi-hat off our wish lists and we can spend the next, 4-10 years talking about the actual product. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure how they were going to approach the digital hi-hat. I did wonder, for example, whether it might come integrated with a stand rather than just as a cymbal pad, since a lot of the time the stand and especially its spring tension adjustments can make a massive difference with V-hats. But it appears to be very much a digital version of the VH-13 concept. Like the digital ride, it's got multiple bow sensors, it processes the signal inside the pad, and it has a touch choking function. So it supports positional sensing when it's used with the new TD-50X module sound bank, and I think that's a great addition and might even make it worth the upgrade alone for a lot of people. They've made quite a big deal about the touch muting once again and the grab choking functionality. Personally, I don't know how much of a difference that will really make to my playing, but it might be cool for some people. Now, one thing that I haven't seen any mention of is a bell zone, and by the looks of it, there doesn't appear to be a dedicated one. This is something that I kind of expected to see, so initially I was disappointed. However, I'll reserve proper judgment for when I've played it because there's a chance that the positional sensing on the bow will negate the need for a dedicated bell zone. According to Roland, it also has a better resolution on the open and close transitions, and the foot splash response and playability is supposed to be improved too. Hopefully, I'll at least have a chance to try it out at some point in the future so I can work out whether it's worth the upgrade. The VH-14D is also compatible with the base TD-50 module and the TD-27 with a firmware update for each that's available now. However, this firmware update doesn't include the new sounds or the new articulations, it basically just adds support for the pads. So the only module that currently supports the full range of the digital pads functionality is the TD-50X, but you can upgrade your TD-50 to a TD-50X via the Roland Cloud service as a paid upgrade. It'll all be tied into the Roland Cloud license structure, which makes sense I suppose being a digital product. The upgrade will cost $199 or the equivalent in your currency and should be available reasonably soon. Also, I'll talk a little bit more about this upgrade idea towards the end. So the new TD-50X module is very similar to the TD-50, and this is to be expected since it's not a completely new module and you can upgrade your old one. On the face of it, there are a few very minor cosmetic differences. Some of the knobs now have line markers around them, the main dial is black instead of silver, and some of the other lines have changed a bit. Otherwise, the button layout is the same and the physical in and out configuration on the back is identical too. Again, I'm not surprised by this with it being a mid-generation upgrade rather than a brand new module. The main differences are on the inside. The TD-50X completely dwarfs the 50 in terms of internal sounds. There are now over 900 sounds in there, which is a much healthier number for a flagship compared to the 400 odd in there previously. There are way more acoustic style sounds now. By my quick count, there are now 18 acoustic style snare drums in there compared to the 5 that came in the base TD-50, as well as many more hi-hats, rides, kicks, toms, and more processed and electronic sounds as well. Something that did catch my eye was that now you can turn the snare strainer off. This is a pretty big deal to me, so I'm really happy to see that, and I'm hoping that they sound good on most of the internal sounds. So just in instruments alone, this upgrade is going to make a huge difference to the module, and I imagine that that will be worth the upgrade for a lot of people. I could already get quite a lot out of the TD-50, but I did run into some quite samey sounding instruments due to the limited number of snares and kicks. The presets have also been updated and they sound a lot better on the demo videos. There are also a lot more of them, and I'm really glad that Roland seems to have paid particular attention to this area. In some of their promo material, they've mentioned warm and studio quite a bit, so I think they must have been listening to the feedback and the general consensus that the modules were sounding digital and harsh. Admittedly, they do still sound like Roland sounds, but I agree that they do sound more warm and full. The way that the microphone and the ambience settings work has been massively overhauled too, which is probably another reason that the presets sound much better. These functions are now in line with the TD-27 and even the TD-06 TD-5007's approach of using the new overheads function to handle the mics and the general kit feel, and then the room function where you can choose between different room ambiances and reverbs. The overheads function in particular is something that I really like about the TD-27 module, so I'm really glad to see that implemented on the 50X. I'll be paying quite a lot of attention to this area when I do the upgrade myself. There's also now the ability to have 32 channels over USB when hooked up to a computer using the Roland drivers. That's a massive step up from the 10 that was on the original TD-50, and that's another great thing to see. I don't know exactly how much use that many people will get out of it, but they're definitely really trying to push this studio angle, and I think that's a good thing. I've made a lot of notes about some of the other details that have changed or upgraded from diving into the manual, but I think that those are the most important to the average user. I'll go into more detail on these in a future video because a lot of the changes are quite minor and specific to particular uses. It does look mostly positive to me, though there is one small detail that I'm not a huge fan of. If you do choose to upgrade to the TD-50X from a normal TD-50, your current kit presets can't be transferred to the 50X. And of course this is a real shame for me, as personally I've made a lot of kits that I'd love to keep, and many people will have bought packs from me or other vendors and they'd like to keep their kits. I was hoping that it would be possible to keep the kits in some format even if they're not using any of the new instruments, but after looking into some of these feature upgrades, I guess I'm not that surprised that they couldn't make it work between the two. So for any of you that have bought kits from my store for the TD-50, I'm going to make sure I can work out a way to port them to the 50X. I'm not sure exactly what format that will take yet, but once I figure it out I'll let you know how it'll work. I really don't want anybody to give up any of the kits that they like if it can be avoided. So what do I think of these overall? Well, the new TD-50X module was definitely a surprise to me. I'd heard rumours about a new Roland product launch this April with the TD-50 line, so I thought that maybe a new VAD kit was going to be coming, but I didn't expect that an updated module would also come with it, and I didn't think that the ability to upgrade an older TD-50 would also be possible. From a lot of talk that I'd read previously, people seem to think that there wouldn't be any space on board for this kind of update. I have wondered at times whether they were going to scrap the TD-50 and replace it with another flagship, maybe something with a 7 in the name to put it in line with the other modules. So on the one hand, it's good to see that they haven't completely replaced it, and I can refresh my TD-50 module after 4 years of use. These features bring it a lot more in line with the iterations that we've seen since this generation launched. In the past, Roland have used expansion cards to upgrade a few other modules, but it's been a while since they've used this half-generation update model. I have read quite a lot of talk and some criticism about whether or not this is the module that we should have had in the first place, and to some degree this did spring to mind for me as well. People, myself included, have often said that it felt a little bit like the TD-50 was maybe incomplete in some ways, and I think that's mostly because of the limited instrument library. Certain features on the TD-50 have also been feeling a bit dated since the TD-27 came out and did some of those things a bit differently. Could these functions have been implemented in the way that they are now 4 years ago? Or did that iterative development process across multiple modules need to happen before it could be implemented into a flagship? Unfortunately, I can't really answer that because I'm not part of Roland and I've never developed a product like this. Sometimes you can't just magic up a new method of doing things. It comes from stages of tweaking an existing formula, listening to feedback from users and all that kind of stuff. Either way, I will be getting this upgrade as I clearly want the new features, and I know that it will make my kits better for it and breathe more life into the module for the next however many years. As far as the rest of the kits go, yes, they're expensive, but I think they look pretty decent, and the VAD706 especially looks premium, though I couldn't justify the price personally of going all in and buying one. Flagship kits are often more about that sort of aspiration factor rather than volume of sales, and of course if you want something that gets you most of the way there and isn't quite as expensive, the next step down on the VAD or V-Drums ladder might be the option that you go for instead. So what do you think of these new kits, the digital hi-hat and the TD-50X module? Let me know down in the comments. I'm always interested to hear what you think. Don't forget to check out the edrumworkshop.com for new kits and samples for your module. I'll be working on versions of kits for the 50X as soon as I can. Pop a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more electronic drum related content. And above all, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!